An airstrike in Gaza filmed by the Israeli military on what they say is a Hamas target. This is one of more than 1,200 videos posted online by the IDF since the war in Gaza began last October. They're often in black and white, grainy and with no sound. Taken from a distance, you can rarely make out the people on the ground. Sky News has worked with investigative war monitor Airwars to examine the IDF's use of military videos like these and how they can only ever tell part of the story. On October 7th, Hamas's deadly attack on southern Israel killed around 1,200 people and took a further 251 as hostages. Israel responded with a bombing campaign and a ground invasion of Gaza with the stated aim of wiping out Hamas. Airwars analysis shows that in October alone, the IDF posted footage of more than 500 strikes online. But the international community has been critical of Israel's campaign in Gaza.
This unimaginable situation is overwhelmingly due to recurring failures by the Israeli Defense Forces to comply with the rules of war. On average, about 130 people have been killed every day in Gaza. The scale of the Israeli military's destruction of homes, hospitals, schools, and places of worship is deeply shocking. International humanitarian law is very clear on the paramount importance on the protection of civilians and civilian property and infrastructure.
Conflict experts say the military videos intend to send messages to three different groups. First, to the Israeli public to show it's winning the war. Second, to Hamas as a deterrence. And third, to the international community.
It wants to show that it really cares about striking precisely the target, using as much as accuracy as possible, and avoid collateral damages.
But reviewing strikes from the ground reveals a different side to the story. It shows more clearly the level of destruction and the effect on civilians. On the 25th of October, an Israeli airstrike hit the Al-Taj building, a residential block in Gaza City. The military claimed it had struck a Hamas tunnel. The IDF posted this video, geolocated by Airwars. It begins with an explosion just south of the building. At least 10 more follow before Al-Taj disappears. Marwa's family lived in the building, but the strike that day killed 16 members of her family, including her sisters.
My family was everything to me. They are my life. And I've lost everyone I love.
Footage filmed from on the ground shows the destruction left behind as people search for survivors. According to Airwars, at least 101 people were killed in the Al-Taj strike. Marwa's family claim they didn't receive an evacuation warning. Sky News has asked the IDF for their evidence of Hamas tunnels near Al-Taj and whether an evacuation order was issued. Whilst the IDF answered our questions in general, they did not provide a specific response to this incident. But Israel has always said Hamas remains the target.
We seek no harm to innocent civilians. We seek to find our hostages and bring them home. We seek to hunt down Hamas terrorists wherever they may be hiding.
We looked at a number of other attacks, including one that targeted senior Hamas figures. On the 13th of July, the IDF carried out a strike on Al-Mawasi, which they say killed Mohammed Daif, who is accused of orchestrating the October 7th attacks, and another senior figure. According to Airwars, at least 57 people were killed in a series of strikes in the immediate area that day.
The questions that this particular strike raises are different to other ones. A known high-ranking individual, which was a very high priority target, the top 4 targets for Israel, and would therefore, I think reasonably command a higher tolerance for civilian casualties.
The IDF say the strike was the result of precise intelligence on a compound where the 2 militants were located. Israel claims that Hamas operates in civilian areas, but legal experts say militaries are still obligated to minimize civilian harm.
Attacking military forces have an obligation to weigh up the cost of their military operations against the military advantage, and the cost is essentially the damage to civilians and civilian infrastructure.
In response to our report, the IDF said, many of the accusations and claims presented in the investigation are baseless and constitute speculation. The segments published by the IDF have shown tens of millions of viewers how terrorist infrastructures are embedded within civilian population. The IDF regards every loss of civilian life as a profound tragedy and approaches it with the utmost seriousness. The IDF takes all feasible precautions to mitigate the harm to the civilian population resulting from the fighting and the unprecedented embedding of Hamas within the civilian areas. While Israel may now focus more of its attention on other targets, these videos remain a central part of its strategy in this information war. Oliver Nikido Lynham, Sky News.